A new courage, knowing we have the power to choose love and truth, fills me with hope. Every moment is an opportunity to strengthen our connection with God, and even small acts of kindness can be a light that drives away the darkness. Jesus not only explained the spiritual battle to me but also showed me clear examples of it throughout human history. I saw moments of great darkness, wars, genocides, and acts of cruelty born of pride, greed, and the desire for power. Yet, in contrast, I also saw glimmers of light, moments where love, sacrifice, and faith were powerful forces that dispelled the darkness. Jesus told me something that became deeply imprinted on me. The battle you witnessed in heaven never ended, it continues on earth, not with swords or heavenly armies, but within the hearts and minds of every person. It was a powerful revelation, yet it also brought a great responsibility regarding the future. Jesus showed me glimpses that were both hopeful and challenging. He made it clear that the future is not fixed, it is shaped by humanity's collective choices in response to God's love. I saw that the ultimate destiny is the reconciliation of all things with God. That is the certain, inevitable conclusion, but the path to get there can vary. It can be a journey of peace where human choices follow love, or a path marked by suffering and great trials if we turn away from the light. Jesus explained, love will triumph in the end, but the road to that point is written by the free choices of my children. Every act of love, however small it may seem, brings us closer to the day when everything will be restored. Regarding the return of Christ, Jesus showed me something that completely changed my perspective. It was not a literal image of Christ descending to earth, but a spiritual revelation. It was as if the spiritual realm suddenly became visible to everyone, revealing the true essence of everything and everyone. My mission now is to share this experience and help others understand that, even in the most difficult struggles, love and light always have the final word. Every choice of love, humility, and gratitude not only transforms us but also brings the world one step closer to the restoration promised by God. The judgment that came bore no resemblance to a human court. It was more, as a revelation of each person's essence, the result of the decisions made throughout their lives. Those who cultivated love and connection gravitated naturally toward the light of God, while those who chose selfishness and isolation could not bear the radiance of divine love. Jesus said something profoundly striking. Judgment is not something I impose, it is the final fruit of each soul's choices, to embrace love or to reject it. The greatest lesson I drew from this experience is that love is the most powerful force in the universe. It is what gives meaning to existence and unites everything. Lucifer fell because he turned away from love and chose to think only of himself. The Lord said, "We understand the true nature of the battle you are facing." Before I could fully process it all, the scene around us shifted. We were no longer in that quiet, light-filled space. Now we were in heaven, but not any version I could have imagined. It was indescribably beautiful, filled with a glory that surpassed anything earthly. There were thousands, perhaps millions, of angels all around, shining like stars and singing praises with music that felt almost tangible, as if joy and love had transformed into pure sound. Jesus pointed to a particular angel, a being more radiant than all the others. He shone with unique intensity, and his voice led the heavenly choir in a harmony so perfect it seemed to resonate within the very heart of heaven. Jesus said, "This is Lucifer as he once was. You are about to witness the birth of evil. Few have had the opportunity to see what you are about to see." Lucifer was dazzling. I have no words to fully describe his appearance. He seemed covered in precious stones, emeralds, rubies, diamonds, that reflected the light in a breathtaking way. His wings were immense, shimmering with every possible color, but it wasn't just his appearance. There was something about his presence, a kind of irresistible magnetism, that drew every gaze toward him. When he sang, it was as if heaven itself vibrated with his melody. Jesus explained to me that Lucifer was God's most perfect creation, the highest angel. He was the guardian of the divine throne, the leader of the heavenly choir. Everything about him was perfect: wisdom, beauty, power. He was the seal of perfection, Jesus said, full of wisdom and perfect in beauty. But then, something began to change. At first, It was almost imperceptible. I saw Lucifer pause to admire his reflection in the golden streets of heaven. He would stop as if mesmerized by his own beauty. "Look," Jesus said, "you are witnessing the birth of pride." But soon, he began to observe the other angels, comparing himself to them. With every glance, his expression shifted, first a slight smile of superiority, then a posture suggesting he knew he was different, that he was better. It was like watching something pure being corrupted, seeing pride in its subtle form and how it can grow into something destructive. And in that moment I understood that pride is the root of many of the battles we face, both in heaven and on earth. There was something different about Lucifer's countenance. A subtle touch of contempt began to emerge in his expression. It was then that Jesus explained to me, pride is taking root in his heart. Lucifer is beginning to believe that his beauty and talents come from within himself, forgetting that they are gifts from God. I could perceive Lucifer's thoughts as if they were being projected directly toward me. He was thinking, why should I bow before anyone? I am the most beautiful, the most talented. They should worship me. I should be God. Jesus said something that remained etched in my mind. Pride is the root of all sin. It turns love for others into love for oneself, gratitude into arrogance, and service into domination. From that moment on, everything began to change. Lucifer started seeking more attention. His songs became more elaborate, his gestures more theatrical. It was as if he were performing to impress others rather than to glorify God. But no, he stopped there. I noticed him beginning to whisper to other angels, sowing seeds of doubt in their hearts. Jesus told me, he is sowing dissatisfaction. He suggests that God is hiding something, that the angels deserve more. I heard him say things like, don't you think we deserve more? We are so powerful and perfect, why should we worship? Why can't we be like God? It was devastating to see how his words began to affect the other angels. Some resisted, but many were drawn in by Lucifer's charisma and seductive words. He was incredibly persuasive, a strategist who asked questions that seemed innocent but were fraught with dangerous insinuations. Why would God deny us knowledge? Don't you think we deserve it? Why must we bow before humans? They are inferior to us. It was painful to watch doubt spread. Jesus explained that free will is both a gift and a responsibility. It allows for genuine love but also opens the door to rebellion. The hardest part was seeing God's heart. I saw his sorrow, a love so deep for Lucifer and the angels. Jesus said, the Father keeps extending his hand, offering opportunities for repentance, but Lucifer's pride prevents him from accepting them. Then came the decisive moment. Lucifer gathered his followers. About a third of the angels had been convinced. He stood before God's throne and, with a voice that resonated throughout heaven, declared, I will ascend above the clouds and be like the Most High. Those words erupted from Lucifer's mouth like a cry of rebellion. At that very instant, something began to change. The light that had once shone so intensely within him began to fade. A dark shadow started to take hold of his form, consuming his beauty from the inside out. Then, an intense light broke through the scene, and Michael the archangel appeared, leading an army of loyal angels. Jesus looked at me and said, now you will see the war that began in heaven. What I witnessed was indescribable. There were no swords or weapons as we imagine in earthly battles. It was a struggle of pure energy, light against darkness. I saw the loyal angels, led by Michael, advancing bravely, driving Lucifer and his followers back. The most devastating part was, I witnessed the transformation of Lucifer and the angels who followed him. They were becoming corrupted right before my eyes. The light that once defined them was being devoured by darkness, and their forms began to distort. The battle reached its climax with a clash of forces so powerful that it reverberated throughout the heavens. Michael and the loyal angels finally cast out Lucifer and his followers. I saw him fall, descending like a burnt-out star, cast out of heaven. As he fell, all his angelic beauty vanished, and he was completely transformed into something dark, filled with hatred and emptiness. It was at that moment that he became Satan, the adversary. Jesus then explained to me, you have just seen how the great dragon was cast out, that ancient serpent called Satan, the deceiver of all humanity. Then Jesus told me why he was showing me all this. Rebecca, I want you to understand the true nature of evil. Satan was not created evil. He chose to reject love and let himself be consumed by pride. He continued, free will is a gift, but also a responsibility. Even the most perfect being can choose to turn away from God. That is why faith, humility, and love are fundamental. And then he gave me the most important lesson. Look at the consequences of pride. It is the root of all sin. It is what corrupts even God's most beautiful creations. After that, Jesus took me to the edge of heaven. From there, I could see the earth, but from a completely new perspective. I saw threads of light, connecting people to one another and to heaven. It was beautiful. However, I also saw something grim, dark tentacles trying to latch onto people. Jesus explained, these are the enemy's efforts, temptation, doubt, and fear, seeking to pull people away from God and sever those connections. But then he showed me something that filled my heart with hope. I saw how the threads of light grew stronger through acts of love, faith, and prayer. He said, every gesture of kindness, every moment of worship, reinforces these connections. That is how God's love manifests on earth. That vision forever changed the way I view the world and the power we have to resist darkness. What I saw gave me a new perspective on the impact of Lucifer's fall. After he and his followers were cast out of heaven, it seemed as though a wave of darkness had been unleashed upon the earth. It was not something obvious or immediate, but subtle, almost imperceptible. It was as if he whispered doubts into people's ears, planting small temptations in their hearts. The most striking realization was that human choices play a crucial role in this spiritual war. Jesus explained that true spiritual warfare is not an epic battle filled with explosions and chaos, but something far more intimate and daily. It lies in the small decisions we make at every moment, whether to follow God's love or let ourselves be led by pride and selfishness. How can we protect ourselves from these influences? The answer is simpler than it seems. Humility and love. Jesus showed me that pride was the tool that brought Lucifer down and remains his most effective weapon against us. When we choose humility, recognizing that everything we have is a gift from God and that we depend on him, we close many doors to the enemy. Furthermore, acts of love are like threads of light that darkness cannot penetrate. I saw how every gesture of kindness and every word of encouragement strengthened the connections between people, and between them and God. Prayer is also essential. It is not merely asking for help, but seeking to align ourselves with God's will and strengthen our relationship with him. The angels who remained loyal to God taught me an invaluable lesson. They resisted Lucifer's temptations because they never took their eyes off God, whereas Lucifer sank into selfishness. They kept their focus on love and the divine purpose. They recognized that their beauty and power were not their own but gifts from God, and they lived in gratitude for them. They also exemplified a pure, selfless love. They served God and others with joy, without seeking glory or recognition. That love was what protected them from Lucifer's lies. When Jesus showed me how these angels interact with us, I was deeply moved. They are always present, strengthening and protecting us, even when unseen. They work to reinforce the threads of light connecting us to God and to one another. The most beautiful realization was just how much they truly love us. Despite their vastly superior power and knowledge, they hold a genuine, profound affection for us. That vision gave me a renewed understanding of the importance of our choices and how love and humility are our greatest weapons against darkness. The angels who remained faithful to God taught me an invaluable lesson. They showed no disdain or impatience toward humans. On the contrary, they seemed to rejoice at every small step we took on our spiritual journey. Jesus explained that these angels understand the value of free will. They deeply respect each human being's unique path, offering loving guidance without ever forcing or manipulating our decisions. There was something deeply inspiring about the way they worked. It was not merely distant assistance, but genuine care. They celebrated our triumphs, however small, with a joy that could only spring from a heart filled with love. I saw how every small spiritual advance a person made was a cause for rejoicing among them, as if each step toward God reflected the glory they so deeply adored. Yet, The impact of Lucifer's fall was not limited to humanity alone. Jesus showed me how Lucifer's rebellion sent shockwaves throughout all of creation. It was as if sin had shattered something perfect, something that had existed in complete harmony. I watched darkness spread across the natural world like a shadow infiltrating places that had once known only life and wholeness. I saw death and decay begin to take hold in a world that had previously known only growth and beauty. Jesus explained with sadness that when sin entered the world, it affected everything. That is why natural disasters occur, why animals prey upon one another, and why suffering exists, even beyond the scope of human actions. Sin had broken the perfection of creation. Yet, even in the face of such darkness, there was hope. Jesus showed me something extraordinary. Creation itself yearned for redemption. I saw how acts of love, kindness, and obedience to God could drive back the darkness. It was not merely an internal change within people's hearts, it was something that also, every gesture of kindness, every sincere prayer, and every act of worship affected the physical world around us. It was like a light pushing back the shadows. It was as if all creation were yearning for the day of its restoration. Then I asked why God allowed this to happen, why he did not prevent Lucifer from rebelling, for it was something I truly could not grasp. Jesus' answer was both powerful and transformative. He said that true love can only exist where there is a choice. Without free will, there is no genuine love, no authentic worship, and no real relationship. Our Father wanted to create beings who would choose him freely, who would decide to love him because they wanted to, not because they were compelled. Jesus continued with a tenderness that touched my heart. God knew exactly the cost of giving this gift. He knew that opening the door to evil would bring pain and suffering, even the sacrifice of his own son, but he also knew that the love born of free choice would be worth the price. Love that springs from a freely choosing heart is the kind of love that reflects God's glory most deeply and truly. That explanation was profoundly moving, yet Jesus showed me something even greater. He said God's plan was never merely to prevent evil, it had a far greater purpose. He allowed rebellion because he knew he could bring an even greater good out of it. I saw glimpses of that plan unfolding throughout history. It was like watching a vast tapestry being woven, where every thread, even the darkest ones, was used to create something of unimaginable beauty. God was transforming all of creation through this struggle against evil. Jesus explained that God's ultimate goal was not just to defeat Satan, but to elevate those who faced evil and chose good. He said, God is creating beings who understand the cost of love. Beings who faced the darkness yet chose the light. You humans have the opportunity to grow into something that even the angels cannot fully comprehend. You are becoming partners in creation, co-heirs with me. Those words completely changed my perspective on human life. I realized that every day on earth is an opportunity for growth and transformation. Jesus showed me that our daily choices, however small they may seem, are incredibly important. Every act of kindness, every decision to resist temptation, every moment of sincere prayer shapes and refines us, transforming us into who we were meant to be. Jesus told me something I will never forget. Life on earth is like a crucible where you are refined and prepared for eternity. Every choice you make is an opportunity to align yourselves more closely with God's love and to become who you are destined to be. Then he showed me the impact of our actions. I saw how every decision made with love created threads of light connecting people to one another and to heaven. I saw those threads grow stronger with every act of kindness and worship, pushing back the darkness that sought to infiltrate. I also saw faithful angels working tirelessly, strengthening those connections and protecting us from the enemy's influences. This vision gave me a renewed understanding of the importance of our choices and of how love and humility are our greatest weapons against darkness. The love and patience these angels showed us was one of the most moving aspects of my vision. Despite being far more powerful and wise, they looked upon us with genuine affection and dedication. They celebrated our small spiritual triumphs as if they were monumental achievements. They understood the value of free will and deeply respected the unique path each human being must walk. Today, I see life with new eyes. Every small gesture of love, every humble choice, and every sincere prayer has an impact far beyond what we can imagine. And now, more than ever, I am grateful for the gift of free will, because it is through it that we can choose to love, grow, and ultimately reflect God's glory in everything we do. Every difficulty we face in life is an opportunity for growth, not just to overcome the moment, but to become more loving, more humble, more becoming like Christ. During my vision, I began to understand why God does not immediately eliminate evil. He is not simply fighting evil. He is building something far greater, something eternal. His goal is not merely to destroy evil but to create beings who have confronted it, seen its true, empty nature, and freely and consciously chosen love as their path. Yet, a tormenting question arose: what about eternal judgment? What is hell, really? This was one of the most difficult parts of the vision. Jesus showed me that hell is not, as many imagine, a place where God sends people as punishment. Instead, it is a state of existence that arises when someone completely rejects love and chooses selfishness. I saw how Lucifer's choice to turn away from God led him into a kind of self-imposed exile. The darkness that consumed him was not an external punishment but the natural result of distancing himself from the source of all light and love. Jesus explained, what you call hell is actually the final, eternal state of those who, like Lucifer, choose themselves over love. It is not a punishment imposed by God, but the inevitable consequence of the decisions they made themselves. I then asked Jesus about the possibility of redemption for Lucifer and the fallen angels. The answer was complex and hard to accept. Jesus showed me that God's love never ceases and the offer of redemption is always present. However, angels are different from us. Their choices are definitive, made with full knowledge and without the influence of ignorance or deception. They rejected love absolutely and irreversibly. For us humans, it is different. As long as we live, the possibility of redemption remains open. Jesus showed me how our lives are a series of daily decisions. Every choice we make, however small it may seem, draws us closer to God or moves us further away. He explained that the final judgment is not a moment of surprise or something arbitrary. It is, in reality, the revelation of the choices we have made throughout our entire lives. Then, he showed me something profoundly simple yet incredibly challenging. The key to avoiding Lucifer's fate lies in cultivating humility and love. Pride was the root of Lucifer's fall, and it remains his most powerful weapon against us. Jesus explained that true humility does not mean thinking less of ourselves, but rather recognizing our dependence on God and our place within a larger community. It is gratitude, valuing what we have instead of resenting what we lack. When we understand that we are part of something greater, pride loses its power. Love is the ultimate antidote to pride. When we focus on loving God and others, we become less self-centered and more connected. Jesus showed me how even the smallest acts of love, a gesture of kindness, a word of encouragement, a sincere prayer, have the power to weaken the darkness. These actions create threads of light that connect us to God and to other people, strengthening our souls against the enemy's temptations. The vision left me with a new understanding of the importance of our daily decisions. We are shaped by every small act of love, humility, and gratitude, and it is through these choices that we become more like Christ, more connected to God, and stronger against the darkness. Love is the key, and every day we have the opportunity to choose it again. My experience ended as powerfully as it began. Jesus looked at me with a love that seemed to pierce my very soul and said, "It is time for you to return. Remember everything you have seen, share it with others, and help them understand the reality of the spiritual world and the importance of guarding against pride." He placed his hand on my forehead, and in that instant, I was flooded with an indescribable peace and a love so profound that it felt as though my heart might burst with gratitude. The next thing I knew, I was back in my body, struggling to breathe while the surgical team worked around me to save my life. This experience completely transformed my view of life. Before, I was a Christian, but my faith was only a part of who I was, not the center of my existence. Now, my faith is the foundation of everything. I understood that every decision we make, no matter how small it seems, has a spiritual impact. Every thought and every attitude is part of a greater reality, an invisible battle between light and darkness. One of the greatest lessons I learned concerned pride. I am now much more vigilant regarding my own tendencies toward it. When I catch myself thinking I am better than others, or when I feel I deserve something special, I remember Lucifer, how pride transformed him and led to his fall. That thought helps me redirect my heart toward humility and gratitude. Furthermore, I strive to strengthen those connections of light I saw in my vision. I know that small acts of love, prayer, and kindness have a far greater impact than he can imagine. Now, I pray more for others, seek ways to help, and strive to act with empathy and compassion. I want to be a force of light in a world that often seems consumed by darkness. During my vision, I also learn more about Satan and how he operates. Witnessing Lucifer's fall gave me a deeper understanding of his tactics. He is cunning and strategic, rarely acting openly. In heaven, he sowed doubt and dissatisfaction in ways that were subtle, almost imperceptible, at first. Today, I see that he does the same in the world. He does not attack us directly. Instead, he works slowly to erode our moral foundations, undermine our faith, and lead us to question what we know to be true. But the most important lesson I learned is that Satan is not equal to God. He is a created, limited being. He can tempt and deceive us, but he can never force us to sin. We always have a choice, and that choice is our most powerful weapon against him. Jesus explained that Satan uses lies as his primary weapon. He distorts the truth, makes evil appear good and good appear evil, and whispers doubts while fostering pride and resentment, attempting to drive us away from God and those around us. This experience not only gave me a new understanding of evil but also a new courage. Knowing we have the power to choose love and truth, fills me with hope. Every moment is an opportunity to strengthen our connection with God, and even small acts of kindness can be a light that drives away the darkness. Jesus not only explained the spiritual battle to me but also showed me clear examples of it throughout human history. I saw moments of great darkness, wars, genocides, and acts of cruelty born of pride, greed, and the desire for power. Yet, in contrast, I also saw glimmers of light, moments where love, sacrifice, and faith were powerful forces that dispelled the darkness. Jesus told me something that became deeply imprinted on me. The battle you witnessed in heaven never ended. It continues on earth, not with swords or heavenly armies, but within the hearts and minds of every person. It was a powerful revelation, yet it also brought a great responsibility regarding the future. Jesus showed me glimpses that were both hopeful and challenging. He made it clear that the future is not fixed, it is shaped by humanity's collective choices in response to God's love. I saw that the ultimate destiny is the reconciliation of all things with God. That is the certain, inevitable conclusion, but the path to get there can vary. It can be a journey of peace where human choices follow love, or a path marked by suffering and great trials if we turn away from the light. Jesus explained, love will triumph in the end, but the road to that point is written by the free choices of my children. Every act of love, however small it may seem, brings us closer to the day when everything will be restored. Regarding the return of Christ, Jesus showed me something that completely changed my perspective. It was not a literal image of Christ descending to earth, but a spiritual revelation. It was as if the spiritual realm suddenly became visible to everyone, revealing the true essence of everything and everyone. My mission now is to share this experience and help others understand that, even in the most difficult struggles, love and light always have the final word. Every choice of love, humility, and gratitude not only transforms us but also brings the world one step closer to the restoration promised by God. The judgment that came bore no resemblance to a human court. It was more, as a revelation of each person's essence, the result of the decisions made throughout their lives. Those who cultivated love and connection gravitated naturally toward the light of God, while those who chose selfishness and isolation could not bear the radiance of divine love. Jesus said something profoundly striking. Judgment is not something I impose, it is the final fruit of each soul's choices, to embrace love or to reject it. The greatest lesson I drew from this experience is that love is the most powerful force in the universe. It is what gives meaning to existence and unites everything. Lucifer fell because he turned away from love and chose to think only of himself. However, we can rise above when we do the opposite, when we choose love and turn away from selfishness. This experience taught me that every small decision matters. We do not need heroic gestures or grand actions to be part of God's plan. It is found in the small decisions: showing kindness, choosing humility over pride, forgiving, helping someone, praying. Every act of love is like a candle illuminating the darkness, strengthening our connection with God and with others. Together, these small acts have the power to transform the world and hasten the day when all things will be renewed by the light of divine love. Pride separates us from God, but humility brings us back to His purpose. Through humility, we can understand our role in a divine plan and embrace love as the force that transforms all things. The greatest lesson I learned is that no matter how dark the night may seem, love will always triumph. This triumph, however, does not come through force or imposition, but through the free and conscious choices of those who recognize the supreme value of love. Each of us has the opportunity to participate in this triumph. Every gesture of kindness, every humble choice, every act of love is like a thread of light we weave into the great tapestry of creation. Together, these threads form a work of light and hope that dispels the darkness and reveals God's glory in all things. What we have shared here goes far beyond a simple story. It is a powerful reminder that love always triumphs, even in the most difficult moments. God gave us free will to choose, and every small act of kindness, every decision to love makes a huge difference. I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for staying until the end. Your presence here means so much. I am also deeply grateful for this testimony, which has brought so much light and inspiration to us all. May God continue to bless you and guide every step of your journey. If this message touched your heart, please don't forget to like it and share it with the people you love. And, of course, subscribe to the channel to keep hearing stories that strengthen faith and draw us closer to God. May He always be with you. Until